It's time for EdTech Mondays, brought to you by Mastercard Foundation and CC Hub.
Welcome to EdTech Mondays Nigeria show, brought to you by the Mastercard Foundation in partnership with Co-Creation Hub Limited. EdTech Mondays is a platform to facilitate critical conversations on the use of technology for teaching and learning by bringing together key stakeholders including EdTech entrepreneurs, teachers, and parents. My name is Abigail Anazamak, your host on this show, and I would like to say a big welcome to all our listeners. Thank you for tuning in. And if you have been listening to us over the past number of months, thank you for listening again. On the show this month, we'll be looking at accelerating EdTech financing for equity and access. Accelerating EdTech financing for equity and access. Nigeria's EdTech sector has experienced significant growth with a burgeoning ecosystem of startups, investors, and education institutions. The African Union declared the year 2024 as the year of education and skill for 21st century. And this has raised the bar for increased innovation in education than we have witnessed before. With technology defining the education landscape globally, education innovators in Nigeria have risen to the challenge, creating technology-backed learning solutions to improve learning outcomes across the country. Despite this growth, there remains a big challenge of ease of skill in terms of democratized use and adoption of EdTech, laced with the associated cost of developing or using EdTech solution. The question of who pays for EdTech is still largely unanswered. The government, parents, or the schools. Addressing this issue is critical to ensuring equitable access to quality education for all learners. This month, the topic seeks to explore the crucial role finance plays in driving innovation and accessibility in education through technology. So our panelist today is the Executive Director at Leap Africa, a catalyst organization for youth development in Africa. Her work centers on leadership, youth empowerment, social development, digital transformation, and sustainable business practices. She's an influential leader, overseeing and implementing programs, research, learning, and strategies to advance these goals. Her core experiences in the past 15 years spans organizational leadership, operation, and communications. Her exceptional contributions earned her recognition as one of the 50 African women making a difference in development. And this is by Donors for Africa in the year 2020. She's also a 2021 Practice Non-Profit Accelerator Program Fellow. Let's welcome Kende Ayeni.
Hey.
Hi. Thank you, Kende, for joining us on the show today. It's good to have you.
I'm very excited to be here.
You have a very impressive bio, like I mentioned to you earlier, spanning 15 years in the development space. And your work has cut across various sectors in the non-profit landscape, including education, which is our focus for today. So I want you to educate us a bit on your own opinion as a thought leader in this space about what financing for education is today. How have we come up to this point? Where are we? And where should we be looking at going so?
Yeah. When you think about financing, you did raise a very pertinent question. Who is responsible for paying for EdTech, But I also think about it as well in terms of the resources itself, what it would cost to implement any initiative or any action at all, whether it's at the government level, whether it's at individual level. We need to think about the resources holistically. I think, to be fair, as you've already acknowledged, there's a lot of money that has come into West Africa, Nigeria for EdTech. So there's a lot of money there. I've seen so many organizations spring up. If you look at the data, it tells you that individuals in Nigeria come up as the top 5, top 10, top 20, top 100 organizations that have mobilized a lot of millions. They are talking about $10,000 to $25 million. And that says a lot. So there is a lot of traction pre-COVID and post-COVID, because when we think about financing EdTech, we think about post-COVID, but the work started way before, many years ago, but we didn't see traction and we didn't appreciate the need for everyone to get on it until more recently. And so when I think about financing also, I'm really thinking about those who will pay for it as well. And those are the parents, those are the educators. They are the ones that will use the tools, or those are the people that need to use the tools, and they also need to be able to make some commitment. But the government is more responsible because they've got this large bucket for education every year. They have this budget set out. They should be responsible for ensuring that a huge component of it is addressing and fixing a lot of solutions that individuals or corporates or organizations want to implement. So there is a huge chunk of that going to the government. I think I'll pause for now on that one, but I have a lot to speak about this financing bit. But
okay, thank you so much. In trying to answer my question, you've mentioned the role of various stakeholders. The end users need to make their commitment, and a huge part of everything still lies on the government. And when you look at the EdTech landscape in Nigeria, it's easy to now say that post-COVID, like you said, we've seen the rise of many more EdTech organizations.
yes,
But the learning outcomes in Nigeria, when you look at reports from UNESCO, there are still so many children outside of school. The learning loss from maybe COVID has still not been sufficiently covered. There's still a lot of challenge. And when you go to the field to talk to people who are building EdTech solutions, they tell you there is still not enough money. So what do you think is the challenge they are facing with accessing this funding? Is the pool getting dry, or is the pool opening up more? What should they do to access more funding to build the solutions?
So my first point of thought is on the shrinking donor landscape. And that doesn't speak specifically to only EdTech entrepreneurs or how do you call them now? Techpreneurs. It doesn't speak to them or affect them alone. The landscape of the donors is really responding and reacting to global activities. So where there's global recession, where there is war, crime, insecurity, and all of these things going on in the world, there will be changing priorities as well. And don't forget, even when we had HIV many, many years ago, these are things that drive funding or financing to any sector or away from any sector, because there is a huge gap. There is more need globally that needs resources. Now, for Nigeria, I think another problem that our entrepreneurs are facing is duplicity of efforts. So while I've said that there's a lot of money, and Nigerians in particular have mobilized from hundreds of thousands of dollars to thousands of dollars to millions of dollars, there is still a lot of duplicacy in their work. There's still the question of scalability in their work. So the first year is great. You get a lot of funding for pre-seed grant, or maybe not, or you even gather friends and family to start out. And then it becomes, okay, what else? How are you going to scale this forward? Because you were able to only do it in Mafoluku, or you did this one thing in Abule. It's not the same when you're thinking about the entire Lagos state. It's not the same when you're thinking about the entire Nigeria, or even the cluster of young people. As you know, when we think about education, it's from 0 to how old? Maybe 25, and that is a huge spectrum. So we have a lot of people coming up with innovation and solutions affecting or targeting different, people and categories of people. But it's not easy because of that. You need to understand also that when entrepreneurs come up with an idea that they think is viable, they need to do a lot of study and research. Next to that would also be monitoring and evaluation. In my opinion, I don't think we are tracking enough. I don't think we are following the money. I don't think we are following our project or reporting what's actually going on. We care a lot about raising funds. Then my name is in the paper. Someone just gave us this amount of money to do XYZ because the business model is good and sound on paper. But when you now ask for the M&E, where is your sustainability report? Then it becomes a bit tricky. Then it becomes a bit shaky. Then we begin to speak a lot of grammar and vocabularies that are going up and down. And that's where the real work is. So the better tested your program, your project, your initiative, your innovation, and, beyond the proof of concept or business model is the M&A, and you must be able to show 3 years, 4 years, what that might look like, and your sustainability plus. So there is a chain or a flow of thought process when you speak with a funder or when you speak with those who are disbursing resources. They are following a chain of command, a chain of interest, and you must be able to show what is our sustainability plan. So there's got to be another way that we are thinking about funding beyond government, beyond individuals, to ourselves. Philanthropy, maybe to end my point so that you can move on to another word, would be on philanthropy as well. There's a lot of attention on donors. There's a lot of attention on the government allowances and leeways. But also, what has worked in other parts of the world is that individuals are giving to the solutions themselves. We need to separate philanthropy from charity. And philanthropy is you and I, we are working class. We are the middle class. We can at every point in time separate a huge chunk of money every month to go to a CC Hub or to come to a Leap Africa. That way we reduce the dependence. We are not moved by the donor landscape. We are not moved by the recession in the world or the peculiarity of our environment. So there is a lot that goes into why financing is an issue. Raising capital is a problem. And I can go on about it.
Thank you so much for that insightful response. And you raised some very important points. You touched on duplicity of effort among EdTech innovators. You also touched on the fact that research is still not thorough enough to ensure that monitoring and evaluation outcomes reflect the sustainability of their business model. And I liked where you ended your response by talking about alternative financing models. And I'll be coming back to that shortly. But before we get there, I would like you to help us understand what kind of partnerships need to exist between EdTech founders, investors, government, and non-profit organizations like your organization, Leap Africa, to ensure that while we are still trying to explore those alternative financing models, with what we know today to be the way to get funding, we can still make something happen.
Right. So it's a very big ecosystem. You've just identified some players, which a nonprofit like Leap Africa is one of them, but it's very large. When you think about a commercial business, you think about a very large landscape of people involved in the value chain process. It's the same thing. There should be a very strong collaboration between all these ecosystem players, from those who provide the funding to those who need the funding. There are people at the beginning, at the end, and in between. Now, Leap Africa sits squarely in the middle of that. We have a program ourselves that allows us to work with entrepreneurs who are also partly techpreneurs and those people who use technology innovation within their enterprises for whatever means across the sector within the SDGs. We are a good gateway between these organizations, because if you do not have certain requirements, you may not qualify for some funding. That's one thing. And that's where Leap Africa come in. We provide the capacity building as well, because we are focused on human capacity development, whilst the entrepreneur is focused on raising the fund. When the money comes through, you realize that they still struggle. That's where we come in. We help them fashion out what is required for them to be scalable, to be sustainable, to be profitable, to be investment ready, and so many other things like that. We allow them to look at the structures, the framework within the organizations that will pilot them. An entrepreneur, a CEO or techpreneur, EdTech owner of an enterprise is busy and can be flying from Costa Rica to Chicago to Zamfara and everywhere. Then who are the people deploying the work? The rest of this team. Those people don't have access. Those people are not as equipped or well-trained. Those people might not have adequate or sufficient education that the founder, the CEO or whoever has got. And that's where we again come in by ensuring that we are thinking about the 360 of the business lifecycle with them, along with them. But that's one thing. Another thing that we do, and I'm not just speaking about Leap Africa, I'm speaking about the role of a nonprofit, is also in creating a sub-fund for these people. Whilst they can have access or qualify for some debt or equity funding, they can't qualify for grants. And we come in by providing sub-grants. We qualify our people because we give them references and so many other things. So the role of nonprofit cannot be de-emphasized in the entire, framework of how funding and how entrepreneurs and enterprises should really be thinking about their work in the scheme of things. The funder's roles is very, very well defined. The role of the government is very well defined. The role of nonprofits also is very well defined as well, because you have different types of nonprofits working in that space or providing resources, whether it's in research, whether it's the actual training, whether it's the sub-grant, and so many other things. So we all need to be collaborating to say these are the gaps that we see exist. But I'll share with you in my own closing, one of the most exciting things that's going on for us as well is that we now even move beyond the grant structure to allow our entrepreneurs to access debt and equity as well by taking them into deal rooms. And that can only be possible because we are actively playing in that ecosystem. We are visible within that ecosystem, and people are asking, do you know someone? Can you introduce us? Can you make the connections? And we are saying when we come here, we are coming along with 2, 3, 4 of our people that should be here. So we open that chain and access as well. So very well.
Amazing.
We all need to be working together.
Amazing. Thank you. So while the government is trying to enact policies that would favor EdTech entrepreneurship growth in the country, funders are busy saying, let's pull this money together to support viable enterprises in the education sector. And NGOs like yours and like CC Hub are also saying, how do we get these people ready for this fund? How do we ensure that they use it for the right purpose and to improve learning outcomes, which is the ultimate goal? Interesting. How can we ensure that financing in EdTech does not only support the development of technology, but addresses broader educational challenges and needs in Nigeria, such as improving foundational literacy and numeracy and the issue of access?
Right. The first challenge there is a digital divide. We can't talk about ICT enhanced education or learning or outcomes without closing the divide. You need to continue to study the data. How many people have access to technology? How many people have access to mobile phones? Because phones are different for the phones that you really need. And what do people do with the phones that they've got? You realize that people do have a tool in their hand that they do not understand that it's a powerful tool that learning can happen on as well. And so we really need to be thinking about what needs to be happening when we want to close the digital divide, how the government, because when we talk about closing the digital divide, I promise you, Microsoft can donate 1 million laptops and phones, and Google do the same, IBM, Elon Musk, everybody can continue, but you're talking about millions. And these people are set up for profit, so they can't donate away everything. And so in response to you, we really need to be understanding that this is something that the government needs to wake up and do. There are policies, I believe, there's a strategy within the ICT that is speaking towards this specifically to ensure that for every curriculum, for every research and development, there is ICT-enabled enhanced learning component. When it's there, that they can sign up for it. A teacher shouldn't go into the classroom without that backdrop, without that mindset, without that training. What is going on at our education faculties? I don't know, what your background is, but the education faculty, which is a subset of teachers that make it to the workforce, or maybe never, but we do know that there's a pipeline of people who studied mainstream in social sciences, eventually get into the classroom without an iota of understanding of what it means to be a teacher. Not to now talk about the component of ICT. So the natural practices should become very efficient and effective, because you're talking about those big tangible things that need to happen, the transformational things that need to happen. It starts from how our teachers are equipped, are placed in the classrooms, and so on and so forth. So it's a real big deal when you're thinking about, all of this. It's not just one thing, but it starts with the change in curriculum, the change with the government, the change in how we recruit teachers, how we provide all these other things. But I'll end up by saying that the Education Innovation Center has got this 10-pillar framework that they have going on, and it's a very brilliant roadmap. If we all take that as a recommendation and situate our work within it, then we'll be very well talking about solving this issue of literacy divide and really increasing access and equity.
Interesting. Thank you so much. And can you come again with that framework you talked about?
I cannot remember it. It seems to be the Education Center. They have a 10-pillar framework, and it lists what people should be doing at different levels. So out of school, teacher education and capacity building, technology education, and so many other things are listed within that. If you provide additional resources, blip on the screen, of course, I can send you that information so that maybe when that bit comes up, you can just blow that out. But it's very, very useful information to have, so we can all plug into it as well.
Thank you. And I liked everything you said, that financing should focus really on bridging the digital divide, and much more should go on to addressing foundational things like teacher training, teacher verification, what is the teacher preparation system like, how do we vet them to even be able to use these devices to facilitate qualitative teaching and learning.
Don't forget, the individuals also need that understanding that they've got a tool. Everybody has got a mobile phone. Learning is happening on WhatsApp now, but they're using WhatsApp to do only God knows what. So it doesn't have to be very expensive
to find out.
It's not very expensive. Once you can work on WhatsApp, education can happen on WhatsApp as well.
Okay, thank you. So we're talking about the fact that donors' priorities are changing, and there could be other financing models that we could explore. Maybe not some big things that we are seeing around the world. So are there examples of those alternative financing models that we could start to explore when it comes to EdTech?
Yeah, impact investing is a big one, and it's very close to what I shared on the philanthropy against charity model. This is all saying that there are few people that can actually, just like you will invest in real estate, can we invest in a subsector of the education sector as well? Identify that and monetize it. People will buy those solutions. That's one alternative way. So if techpreneurs find themselves as solution providers and sell, that's one thing we don't do in this part of the world. We found and we stay on it. We do not sell. When you meet someone from the West, they can find a solution and sell it to somebody who needs that component and can continue to engineer that into something bigger. So creating a solution, selling off.
So when you say sell, it is like you build a solution and you don't want to take lifetime ownership of it. You are able to let it go.
Yeah, you sell it for a lot of money. Even if it's doing very well, you can't sell up that solution. I don't want to call names. Otherwise, I see you're looking for examples. I would have been able to cite examples for you. But yes, you can do exactly what you've just described. Another way is definitely, of course, crowdfunding for this solution, which is similar to the impact investment thing I said, except that the impact investors are looking for more. The ROI, there's the business deal of it as well, to say, I will give you $1 million. In 5 years, I want that $1 million back and some. So you're going to give me back $1.2 million.
So should we say that impact investing is, to the investor, is more about the money? Where it's really impact?
No, that's the thing. You see, when you hear impact, you assume we are saving the world alone. But we are not just saving the world. We are trying to treat impact as tangible and intangible impact. There's got to be the monetary aspect of an impact as well. What's driving impact? Isn't it money? It's the money. So it's not to say that the impact investors are saying, It's basically saying that I want to do good with my money. Rather than just put this and only milk it or put it into pharmaceuticals that can be up for debate or conversations because there is one lawsuit or whatever, I would rather put my money here and recoup it back, because not everybody wants to do good work. Well, not everybody wants to give money because of the fact that they like to give away. They want to give back for something and retrieve for something. But flexible funding is another one, which is institutional strengthening. Some organization, and this is where the donor landscape is shifting to, where they are all talking about, I don't want to drop names, I don't know if I can drop names, but Marquez's Court is an example of someone who gives flexible funding, who is saying that I don't care what you use this money for, let it go into your enterprise and do something with it, which can then continue to give. That is alternate funding that's got no equity, it's got no debt on it, you are not writing any report, and nothing like that. So we do need that.
We do need that, because who monitors? Because we would have to still come back to monitoring and evaluation.
So when you build the framework, whether somebody is asking you or not, you have to have a very strong M&E. We have even expanded it. I think you guys probably have it as MEAL in your organization. We have it as M&E, research and learning. So it's MEAL for us, because it's not just monitoring and reporting, but we want to do research. We want to learn, relearn, unlearn, and continue to share our insights. So if you are doing any impact work and you are not doing M&E or expanding it to become MEAL or MEAL, then you are not doing anything and you're not ready for the actual work.
Thank you so much. So to my final question, what policy changes or regulatory frameworks are needed to create a more conducive environment for EdTech financing in Nigeria?
We have to incentivize the use of technology. Once it's incentivized, then your policies will work, because then you're telling people, this is set out to do this for you, but I need you to do one or two things to do that. So the policies must be thinking about the people, and the uptake of the policy is not to just state it outright.
So I see that playing out as maybe an original equipment manufacturing company saying, I'm releasing this device, and as long as it is for educational purpose, maybe 10% goes off for the end user to purchase. And that's like a regulatory thing that it goes.
And for the person, that person who has decided to make that 10% contribution can get a tax rebate.
Yeah.
You need to incentivize some policies and some framework or approach that you have, which gets people into it. And this is what is working in Europe. This is why Europe is very successful with things like that.
All right. Thank you so much, Kendi Ayeni. It's been amazing conversing with you today on the show. I would love to hear from you, our listeners. What specific policy moves do you recommend to further strengthen EdTech adoption and support the development of Nigeria's EdTech sector? Send us an SMS or a WhatsApp message on 0703 165 0809. That is 0703 165 0809. You could also join our Telegram channel at EdTech Mondays Nigeria to continue the conversation. It's been another amazing time on this episode of the EdTech Mondays show. I remain your host, Abigail Anazamak, and I look forward to another engaging conversation next Monday. Same time, same station. Till then, it's bye for now.
EdTech Monday is proudly brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.